comes from, oops, we're recording.
Forgot.
Ooh, okay. But my story comes from, I guess, an immigrant perspective. So my father, he is from Greece. He comes from a small village in the island of Crete. And he left his home when he was 15 years old. And it's really a hard concept for me to really think about because my daughter's 14 now. And I couldn't even imagine her leaving my house next year to just live on her own. But he became a merchant marine and he traveled the world and he made the huge cross across the Atlantic in a huge tanker. And he landed in New York. And when he got there, him and his buddy, who actually is my godfather now, they got tickets to go explore New York and visit. The only thing is my father never returned back to the ship. So he always had heard about America being the land of opportunity. And he was actually told that there was gold in the streets, but he just felt that if he could just get to America, everything would be better. And he just have a much more successful life. And so he didn't go back. And yes, he was here illegally, but he met with other Greeks in the community that helped him. And my dad worked in, restaurants. He always told me about how, his first apartment was the size of a closet and he would eat cheese sandwiches, every day. And then, he came to this country. He said, I had $6 in my pocket, Julie, that's it. And he just, used his community, his Greek community to help him. And so, my dad was 17 by the time he got here. And then I would say about a year later, he actually met my mom. My mom's American. She's from New York. And they got engaged. And before they got married, the embassy caught up with him and he was deported back to Greece. And so at 19, my mom left New York, found my dad back in, Greece, and they got married there. It's like the, classic love story. And they came back to New York, and my dad got into, he was always in the restaurant business, he would bus tables, but then he got into the construction business and was doing siding. And, and then my mom too, she never, the most that she did in terms of schooling was one semester of community college. And so, once she met my dad and let's see, my mom was 19 when they got married. And then I came along, 2 years later. But so my dad worked in the construction business, did siding, windows. And eventually he ended up owning his own restaurant. But if you all have ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's my life right there. My dad owned the restaurant. I worked at the restaurant. Up until, my dad came to America and up until he, owned the restaurants, it was a struggle. It was very hard. He told me there were many times he wanted to just give up and go back home. It wasn't easy. And I think for me, that's the biggest lesson that I've learned from my father is grit and perseverance. You can do anything you want to in life. It's definitely going to be easier for some than others. But if you have the drive, that grit, Lauren, like you said, you've got that motivation that you want to achieve this, you can it's there and you will do it. And you have to, feed yourself those positive thoughts all the time. Because there were many times my dad, like I said, just wanted to give up. And my mom, the biggest thing that I've learned from my mom is, she was always the voice in my head saying, keep going, for school, and school is most important, because they ended up making a fabulous life for themselves. And for, us kids, I'm one of three. I'm the oldest. I always tell, I tell my brother and sister I'm the favorite. And ironically, I actually took my dad's phone. And so when he calls me, it says favorite child, or if I call him, it's favorite child. So, my dad always makes a joke. He's like, why does my phone say that? And he's like, it's because it's smart, it's smart phone. So anyway, my mom just, always pushed education and said, a college degree will open more opportunities for you, will make, life easier for you. And so I always had that in the back of my head. And so, and I remember I was watching, I don't know if you guys were there when Dr. Handy did her presentation last month, but she talked about how she didn't have very good SAT scores. And when I watched her say, talk about that, I was like, now I'm in the same boat. I did really well in school, but when it came to those standardized tests, for getting into college, I freaked out, and it did not score very well either. And the funny thing is there's actually research to support that test anxiety. There's a chemical in the brain called cortisol that'll actually block your brain from retrieving that information. So that's why if you ever take a test and you blank out, that's probably the reason. It's not that you don't know the information, it's just that your body's in that flight or fight mode, and it just wants to, bring you back down. Lauren, I know you had your hand up.
No, I was agreeing.
Yeah.
I
think we've all been there.
For tests and knew the information. It would be anxiety because it was pressure.
Yep.
And I would just.
Yeah. You get nervous. Nerves will do that to you. So I did thankfully get into, I went to Virginia Tech my freshman year of college, and I majored in political science. I didn't think I wanted to go into education. Honestly, I saw, I don't know what it was, if it was a movie that I saw or whatnot, but I wanted to be working in those high-rise buildings in a fancy suit. Like that's what drove me to, figure out what my major was going to be. But I thought I was going to become a lawyer, and I decided I didn't want to do that. And Virginia Tech was really, really big for me. And it was also 3 hours away from home. And I'm a bit of a homebody, so I like being close to my family. And so after my freshman year, I transferred and I ended up at William & Mary, and I finished there. And my major was economics. So once I finished there, and I do have to tell you a funny story about, again, this is where the grit and perseverance comes in. I'll never forget, I was in a class at William & Mary. It was my microeconomics class. And the professor had asked me a question, or not me, it was the class. It was a true or false question. And I answered the question wrong. And his response was, you had a 50% chance of getting it right, and you got it wrong. And I just wanted to curl down in my seat and just run away. But for me, in the way I guess that I'm wired, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to let him think he got me, and I'm going to push and figure out what I got wrong. So I actually met with him, and I was like, can you please explain? I didn't understand this. Can you explain it to me? So, that's just a little piece of advice. If you ever get constructive feedback that isn't so, positive, reach out to your instructor and ask, can you please clarify or whatnot. But again, it was that grit and perseverance. Like, I'm not going to let anything, bring me down or fail me. But so I finished there at William & Mary, and I got a job in Atlanta, Georgia as a financial analyst. Now, I love numbers, and Newt could attest to this. I love spreadsheets. I'm very analytical, logical, and sequential. And I did that job, I think, for about a year, but I sat there going, this is it. I'm going to plug numbers into a spreadsheet all day. While it's fun, I didn't feel like that's where I was meant to be. And I really loved working with people. And that's when I decided to quit my job, and I went back home and attended Virginia Commonwealth University and got my graduate degree in early childhood and elementary education. And I would say that education was always, I guess, always part part of my life, because as I was growing up as a kid, my sister and I always used to play school. And I was always the teacher and she was always the student. So I always tell her, I'm like, you did really well in school because of all my, teaching. She doesn't seem to agree, but so I finished out my my graduate degree there. That was 2004, and I actually got married a week later. So that was, I didn't even go to my graduation just because my wedding was the next day. And then that August, I became I had a job as a 5th grade classroom teacher. And I know none of you right now are thinking about pursuing teaching, but I always tell my student teachers that I do have, if you student teach at the place that you student teach is typically the place where you end up getting a job. And that's what happened to me. But I knew I wanted to do more. Like, the graduate degree wasn't enough. And the other thing is, I was the first one in my family, both on my mom's side and my dad's side, to get a college degree. And then obviously the graduate degree. And then I was like, I want to achieve that doctorate degree. So once I got my graduate degree in 2004, in September of 2004, I started my job as an elementary school teacher and signed up to pursue my doctorate with Capella University. And I know Dr. Miller also, you went to Capella as well, right? But I knew for myself that being able to achieve that and working full time was going to be really hard if it wasn't done online. And so that's why I'm so thankful for the opportunities for online learning, because it allows that flexibility. You guys can, learn when it's convenient for you. And during that, it took me 5 years to get my doctorate degree. But in that process, I also had 2 children. So you throw the, the full-time job, working on a degree, and then taking care of a family. So I know she dropped off, but to Catherine's point that she had said, just trying to juggle everything, it's really hard. And, I'll talk about, some of the strategies that I've used that I found, very helpful. But so and I always tell this joke that when, I was always trying to maximize my time. And so I had my daughter in 2007, my son came in 2009, and I defended my dissertation. He came September of 2009. I defended my dissertation October of 2009. So what I did, I was like, well, when I went into labor, I was like, I'm gonna have some time to sit here until he comes. So I brought my dissertation for editing, because I was like, well, I'm gonna use this time that I'm gonna have. And I did. I mean, I edited after, actually he came too quick, so I edited after he was born. But I was like, all right, the nurses are taking care of him. My husband has my daughter. I've got alone time, and I'm not going to get, a lot of that. So that's how I was able, to achieve that. But like I said, the drive, if you've got the drive, the perseverance, the motivation, you can, certainly achieve anything that you want to. And, I just want to leave you with some things, I guess, some strategies to support you during this time as you're earning your bachelor's degree. But, when I had talked about that time management, I don't know if you've ever heard of Stephen Covey. If you just do a Google search, he's got a great website of different strategies to support, just time management. And one is planning your big rocks. And this is something that I learned actually not too long ago, but it's, thinking about each day and taking one step at a time. I know, Lauren, you had talked about that, just one discussion at a time, but going, okay, what do I need to accomplish today? What are the big things that have to get done? And then, what are the things, the little rocks that I have to get done, and where can I, kind of insert that into my schedule? And a practice that I've always done that has been really beneficial is I block off time. So I'll say, okay, from 1 to 2, I am working on in my case, discussions with my students. And I will shut off my email, I shut off my phone so that I have no distractions and I can focus my time on that. And then I'll do that throughout the day where I need, I'll have meetings, I'll fit in where I facilitate my courses, I'll have other assignments or tasks that I need to complete. And then the biggest thing too is just don't forget about yourself, reward yourself. So if you achieve the goals that you want, make that time, whether it's, hey, I'm going to go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. I'm going to watch a movie, whatever it may be. Find that time for yourself, because you can get burnt out, and we don't, definitely don't want that to happen. The other thing, and I know Dr. Miller had talked about this in his session, is just getting to know your instructors. We're here to support you. We want you to be successful, but we also need that ongoing communication. So don't be afraid to reach out to your instructor if you're struggling, if you need more time. I mean, all of us understand that life happens, and sometimes we struggle with that time management, and we need a little bit of grace. And so don't be afraid to reach out and ask. I mean, I always tell my kids the worst things they'll tell you is no. So, but in this case, where faculty here are very understanding. The other thing, and this is, your instructors are going to provide feedback on your discussions and on your written assignments. With your written assignments, a lot of instructors will provide embedded comments. And so they'll put comments directly in your paper, and then provide the summative, which is the comments in the that give the overall performance. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, because I mean, I'll be the first to admit, sometimes I have to stop myself, because I want to provide all the support for my students so that they can improve. But what I would suggest is obviously reading the feedback. But then the second thing is find one thing that your instructor said that you need to improve upon, and work on that for the next week. And then once you've improved that, then find something else to, continually improve. And a lot of times, your instructors will give you the different resources. I don't know if you guys have explored it or not, but like the Writing Center has oodles and oodles of resources for APA formatting, which is everyone's main nemesis. But they have guides, they have videos. So definitely make the Writing Center your best friend. Take time to explore, because UAGC does such a great job of giving their students the supports they need to be successful. And then the last thing, and this is just a personal, request, read a lot of your instructors, they post announcements every week, but take the time to read them and see if they've posted anything new. A lot of instructors will post little nuggets to help you be successful in assignments. For me personally, I provide videos all the time. And I also use it as a place to get to know my students better. I always ask, some kind of get to know you questions so we can engage in further dialogue and just, build the relationships. But I forgot to tell, I teach at the graduate department for Masters of Arts in Education in the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. Actually been here for 9 years, and it's just been really fun, working with students and getting to know you all. But that's my story, and I hope some of those tips you found helpful. But you all have any questions?
I wanted to ask something. No one told me this, but I went on YouTube and I went into MIT, and there's doctors, PhD teachers that will actually teach on psychology and research, and I just listen to lectures. I know it's but some of them they're funny. They're really interesting,
Yeah.
And TED's another one. A lot of information on TED.
You said, what was it?
TED, TED.
Is it TED Talks?
TED Talks.
Oh, yeah. I love those. Those are great. I
Yeah.
integrate those videos a lot in my course, in the discussions, just to talk about them, because they're so great. And I love things that not require, but get you to think about different perspectives.
Yes.
I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But no, I think those things, those are great resources. I was gonna say, and hopefully in your courses, you'll see your instructors utilize video more too. But is that something that you all like to see, like more videos of your instructor does? Yeah.
Visual.
Yeah. A lot of students respond very positively to that, want to hear.
Even the ones that the professor records of herself, and she gives us those tidbits. Because right now I have Tanya Armstrong.
Okay.
I think is how you say her name. But she's doing little videos, and I like the ones where they show her face than just as of an audio, because it's harder for me to pay attention.
Yeah.
But I love those TED Talks too. I fell in love with them because of this school.
Oh, good. Yeah, we love TED Talks here.
Can I ask you a question about your childhood though? Like,
yes.
What was it like being with, your mom and dad, and when they were going to Greece to get married, then they came back, I'm guessing before you were born? But I mean,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So we actually lived in Greece. I didn't add that. I lived in Greece for about 8 months. My sister was born at that time too. And I actually went to kindergarten, I guess pre-K, in the small village that my dad's from. So, and then we came back to the States, because that's when my mom was like, yeah, I want to go back home and send them to school in America, versus Greece. But, and I actually went to a Catholic school for kindergarten, and then was public school the rest of the time. But, I grew up, and it was very interesting to grow up in a bicultural home, because, my dad had views, one set of views, and my mom had a different set of views, and in the way that they wanted to raise us. And so it was quite interesting. But my mom's side is Italian, so there's a lot of passion in my family. Lots of yelling. That's just how we, this is my speaking voice, and it's my yelling voice. But
being a family that's Native American.
Yeah. Oh, is it loud too?
It can, Native American and Irish, it can get very loud. Yeah.
That's great. Well, it's so funny, because my mom just got the DNA test done. Because my dad, if you've ever, like I said, you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, everything my dad ever talks about is Greek. Greeks are awesome. Greeks were the first on this planet. He thinks that there's, other Greeks living on other, it's a running joke in our family. Because my dad's like, did you know you're Greek? I'm like, really, Dad? I didn't know. But so my mom, she's Italian, and then her father's side is from Scotland and the Welsh area. And so my mom actually a couple of years ago got our appendix taken out, and my father told her, he's like, good, you finally got the Italian out of you. So it's like, but that's, and then my mom got that DNA test done. Come to find out, she was 18% Greek. I was like, Dad, wow. This means we're even more Greek than we thought we were. Yeah. But yeah, and to your point, Nicole, like my mom actually found out she's a little bit Irish too. I'm like, oh boy, like, yeah, we're mess. So, yeah, but
yeah, I know my great grandfather was full-blooded Cherokee.
Okay.
And I know my mother always says that if any of us are angry, it's the Cherokee rising. So, yeah.
Yep. My dad uses that too.
Yep.
But
I have a question to ask. You said on the feedbacks that the instructors embed on the assignments, is there a way to download like download those feedbacks with the assignment so you can read them without being on?
Waypoint.
Like, well, I don't know, because so Newt, I've seen where you click on that. Do you see the blue link above the summative comments when you?
And
Yeah.
you can't
Okay.
do it on the app. Is that what you're asking? Can you do it on the app, or do you have to actually go online? You can't.
Well, like online, because like Simon ago or something, the instructor had a whole bunch of really good feedback, but I couldn't get the feedback like in a separate area with the assignment so I could read it separately and digest it and everything. I was trying to figure out how to do it. And as you can tell, technology is not always my friend.
It's a learning curve. It'll get better. But I know you can click on the blue link, and then I think doesn't it open up as a PDF file?
Does it?
I thought it did. It's hard because I'd have to go in and play with it a little bit, and see. And I can also, I'm going to write your name down, just see if I can find out from somebody if there's a way to do that. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
But you're able to see the embedded comments.
Yeah, I
just
can read the embedded comments. I was just trying to figure out, like, even if I just wanted to download it and print it out on a piece of paper so I could set it next to me to read them.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will, I'll definitely look into it, but, and I can understand that because I like to hold, I'd rather read a book than read it online.
Yeah.
And I like to have, things where I can write notes on and stuff. So.
Right.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys are talking about on Waypoint,
Yes.
when the embedded comments that for that document.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
For that.
Okay,
For that
thank
assignment.
you.
Yeah. But any other questions?
No, I was gonna say my first 3 weeks was almost disastrous because I would be in the mountains and I wouldn't get a signal. And then I just had my little tablet and I couldn't download the templates. So back when you were saying, keep in touch with your instructor, I did. And she had me write all the questions out and answer them and send it in an email. And she graded me that way.
Oh, good.
When I got my laptop, I'm okay. But it was horrible at first because I couldn't download anything,
Yeah. And that's hard working from a tab. Like I would definitely, if you can avoid it, when you're writing papers, have either your laptop or, whatever it is that you work on. That's the other thing. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Grammarly. That's a free service to you all. Okay, awesome. That will, help proofread your work for you as well. So definitely take advantage of those free resources. But, well, sounds like you guys are doing such a great, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, how old were you when you were done going to school?
31.
You did all that by 31?
So I went to school right when I graduated high school. So I followed that, common trajectory where it's not, I don't want to say it's common, but the 18 to 22. And then from, I think I got married at 26. So I started my graduate degree at 24. And then I started my doctorate at 26.
Amazing.
Or maybe it was.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Amazing.
That's a grit and perseverance. If you want it, you get it.
I had a question, if you don't mind. I can look it up myself, but do you have any feedback on the CHAMPS program?
You might know more to it than I do. I have the links, but it's meant to help mentor you.
Okay,
you could also become a mentor as well to other students. Newt, did you want to add anything?
No, Oh, I'm sorry. I just
okay.
saw it. Somebody brought it up and I didn't know exactly what it was about. So I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a
I
great, it's a great
signed up.
networking. Go ahead.
I was just to say, I signed up and I haven't got paired with anybody yet, but I'm excited. The only thing is I don't know if they're gonna make you do like additional homework for it. And I don't know if I can carry both loads if I do that. But it sounds awesome.
No, it's not necessarily additional homework. It's just more of a connecting, a mentorship, just kind of networking. So there's somebody by your side that's been where you're going or kind of understands kind of how the university works, where the services are, and they can help you, keep things moving forward. So it's not about work. It's about helping you work more efficiently.
Support network.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The hope is that if you get the chance program, that after a year or so, that you become a mentor for someone else. So pay it forward kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard wonderful things about it from the students that have attended. So.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, if there's no other, questions, again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us and listen to my story. And I enjoyed listening to y'all's story. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Have a great rest of the weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.